It's not just about feeling good, but it's just about feeling. It's a salad in a glass. It's called the I'm So Sexy and I'm Never Gonna Die. Listening to receive rather than listening to be entertained.
So, welcome to our next episode. And as you can hear, today it's English. I hope it's fine for most of you.
Leid.
Because we talk today with English speaking and beautiful, handsome Andrew Ronning.
Absolutely. Hello.
Yes. Maybe we switch here and there into German because we are not native speakers. But when we hang out with Andrew and he comes from the United States, we always talk English. So
Nee, nicht immer.
Nicht immer, ja.
Mit Micha normalerweise reden wir auf Deutsch, oder?
Ja,
Ja.
Ich bin ein strenger...
We normally talk Spanish, no? Right?
Yeah.
But Micha doesn't know, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of switch between Spanish and sign language.
Yeah. No, but would be weird to talk only German today, so it's a mix. Hope it's okay for the listeners.
I think if you have a talk in another language than your mother language, you have to listen more carefully.
So much more carefully.
And I think that fits very well for our topic today.
Yes.
To listen.
Active listening is our topic today.
But today, first of all, I want to know because it tastes so good. So all the listeners cannot see it and also not taste it. But it's amazing. It's a light green color. It's amazing drink. So Andrew, you are an amazing guest host. So what is
thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for doing this. It's just it's a salad in a glass. So it's a coriander lime cocktail with spicy vodka, and it's called the I'm So Sexy and I'm Never Gonna Die.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it makes you feel so sexy and invincible.
Yeah, I said already, you have to teach me how to make proper drinks, no?
Yeah, well, we can...
Doing it really nice, yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about you. So maybe you can introduce yourself. We said already that you're not from Germany. Maybe
Correct.
You can say a little bit what are you doing here in Berlin? What are you doing? Where are you from?
Yeah, very briefly.
Where did we met actually? Because it's not a random guest. Andrew's also a good friend of us.
Yeah, so I moved to Berlin about a year and a half ago. Came from kind of the Pacific Northwest in the States. Lived for about 10 years in Northern California, where I studied classical composition in university. And within a couple months of moving to Berlin, I met Michael through the Berlin project. My wife had lived here previously a few years ago, and so she was connected with Berlin project.
Oh yeah.
And then there was this new guy in the group, Michael, and he came over one day. We sat in this living room and talked about music, and we fell in love with each other.
Yeah, that's right. I'm the only non-musician tonight. Yeah. But yeah, that's why I'm also sitting opposite to you.
Yeah.
But I think, Jonathan, you are a good listener of music.
Yeah.
I think that's also important,
Right.
not only to maybe create music. So you listen to music. I think it's an important step for creating something.
Yeah. I love listening to music.
Yeah.
It plays a big role also in my life, music. Not only creating them, but also listening to music.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think it's an important thing for everyone to do is not just
so
listening to music.
I saw the other day a meme where there was there were written, if you have only 5 minutes, which song would you play? 5 minutes left of your life, and then there were a person scrolling to the playlist and couldn't find the song. I think it would be also me, because I'm also looking a lot for music and searching for music.
Yeah, well, that's so funny because I was coming back to Berlin from the States over Christmas, and we had a very rough takeoff from somewhere. We were taking off in the plane, and I had just been told about this artist, Andy Schaaf.
Mm-hmm. No,
Andy Schaaf, this singer-songwriter, and I'd already listened to one of his albums entirely through, and I was kind of looking for something when the plane just started shaking really badly, and I had the thought, I might be dying.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just went right back, and I put on, I just started his album, and I was like, if I'm going out, this is a really nice sound. He has kind of a just a really mellow kind of sound, and really descriptive lyrics, and so I just thought, I might die. I want to listen to this guy.
So I definitely have to give this album a chance and listen to it when it's so important for you. Yeah,
I mean, it was just. See, I think I'm the exact opposite, where I don't. If I am looking for something to listen to, I don't search very much.
Yeah, maybe because you have the good chosen music already on your phone, and you just put shuffle and good music.
I never put shuffle on.
Okay, so you're listening from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
That's So do you love to listen to a full album, or do you a sneak listener, or do you listen to a whole album?
Whole albums.
Why? So in times of Spotify and Apple Music and something, I think it's not very common.
Yeah,
I think
also an album in general. You have a lot of singles, EPs.
Yeah,
everything. When it's finished, it has to also be uploaded, and sometimes you are not finished with an album. So LP or something is the first step, and in the end, maybe something. But
I think a big part of the singles, the big part of the reason that singles are a thing now. I mean, bands put singles out. The Beatles put singles out, and that was a thing in the past, but. Now with digital music and streaming, Spotify and Apple Music, it's so much more. The music industry has become so much more product based and profit based, so capitalistic that it's no longer about from the corporate perspective. It's no longer about the artist's expression. It's about when can we have a hit song where we can put on a TV show or a movie and
commercial,
and I don't have any problem with singles because sometimes it's an artist, is in between projects, in between albums or in between projects and has a song that doesn't fit in and just wants to release it because they like it. So it's kind of, but for me, if an artist that I know or have been told about has released a single, I'll listen to it, but I prefer to listen to the albums because, I think, Michal, you can kind of relate to this, that as an artist, you put a lot of thought into how your album will flow, how it will start.
The storytelling of it.
Yeah, and even if there's no specific story about, it might not be about Sisyphus or some Greek legend. It could just be you have a 5 or 12 songs, and I know that I've stressed about what order I want to put them in, and I think all artists kind of they stress about how do they want they want to kind of present their expression. And so for me as a listener, I want to listen to all of that and to get to understand what the artist is trying to communicate.
Yeah. It's a little bit awful in my thoughts that I'm also doing music and I'm planning my next album and I'm planning the tracks and the pieces of music and I make lists and then I delete it and I renew it and then is it 10 songs, then 15, then 5 and so what song makes it on the first 3 on the album? So and maybe the last song or something is like we call it in German the Arschkarte. So it's like you are also on the album, but very very
song number 7 is always the best.
So and isn't it awful that it come? So it is like I have this thought of that the songs stand in competition to each other. What song makes it on the first number, the second, and so it's like how you said, it's like maybe also because of the capitalistic circle of.
I think very much so, because I don't think it's awful for an artist to think about that, because as an artist, there's so much pressure that's put on us to sell and to be we have to kind of live in this corporate world and try and retain our individual creativity and our individual expression, but also trying to fit in. So and I have no idea yet how to do that. But it's funny you said that track number 7 is always the best, and which
and it's true.
I have to remember it for my next album.
I mean, as soon as you said that, I started just going through a list in my head of different albums, and I think it's very interesting if you're talking about a 12-track album. The 7th song would come just after the halfway point. And which in most pop songs, that's the kind of the peak. The second half is where the bridge happens, and that's a big build. And so...
dramaturgic.
So it's maybe interesting. So we introduced you a little bit, or you introduced yourself, but what kind of music do you really like, or what, as a musician, you are a musician, what kind of music you are creates, and you are, what I know, you come from a very also classical or where you have some influences, and classical pieces could be very long. So I think you have a different understanding of maybe the length of a song or of the vibe of a song or something. Can you tell something? What do you prefer? What do you like? What is your music about? Yeah.
It's also like very different.
Yeah, so I love to be surprised.
Yeah.
But I think a big part
By anything.
No. If not in general. If my wife came to me and said that we were pregnant, I would probably, that would be a surprise that would be shocking.
No, but in terms of music, so...
In terms of music...
The theme, like the notations, like...
Yeah.
Different things you enjoy if it's something unexpected, something...
Right, so Misha and I have we've argued about Mozart a lot. And
Classic.
Yeah, that's high class.
I'm also doing it with my friends.
I hate Mozart so much.
Luckily he's not here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was. I don't hate him as an artist. I hate what he did.
Okay.
Because there's going to be a lot of people really angry about that. But he's a genius.
Yeah.
But the time in which he lived was very structured, and he was writing music for people that didn't understand music.
Yeah,
I think
of
if you
course.
took Mozart and put him in the modern
Most of the musicians do.
Yeah. Well, yes, but in the classical period
Okay,
in which
yeah.
Mozart lived was
Yeah.
50 years.
Yeah, yeah.
The Baroque period was 150 years.
Yeah.
And the Romantic period was 100
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah.
The reason the classical period was so short was that
Yeah.
it was boring.
Yeah.
And it was very courtly, very nice. It wasn't very passionate.
Okay.
I do like Mozart's Requiem. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice piece because it is it's a very emotional piece. You kind of feel like there was somebody behind it that was trying to say something.
Last time I listened to it, I asked myself, is it from Mozart?
Right.
It does.
It's very different to the
Yeah. So it's not like so
I mean, you can seriously. I mean, but the thing with Mozart is there's so many patterns that repeat, but I think we all can kind of imitate a Mozart piece, and there isn't anything. There's nothing surprising about a Mozart piece, whereas with a Debussy piece, Michel and I both love Debussy, and we've all listened to Debussy enough that we know what's coming next. But there's so much. There's kind of a wistfulness, a very free floating feel that. Kind of like something that just drifting in the wind. That you can't tell where it's going necessarily. It's just going by nature. And it's those little surprises. It's kind of like watching a flock of birds fly around, and it's unclear who's leading it, and there might not be any single bird leading the flock as it just flies around, but it creates this movement that you can never expect where they're going to go next. So it's kind of, that's the thing that I love about music that surprises me is that I can't predict where it's going to go next.
Yeah, what I like, you can maybe correct me, but on Debussy is that he broke some rules, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
And with that, it's exciting, it's interesting, and it's innovative. It's new in my ears.
Yeah, it's very innovative.
Yeah, and so my question, do we deprive ourselves of the magic if we always consume art where we already know what comes next, what note will be played next?
And so on.
Yeah. Yes, I think so.
I also think so.
Yeah, because, well, there's two ways to think about listening to music or listening to anything, reading poetry, reading news stories, the people that we talk with. If we're never exposed to new ways of thinking, to new sounds, to new ideas, then we'll just stay the same. We'll never, I think with, when we listen to, even if we listen to music that we dislike, so there are some bands that my wife likes that I don't like, but I'll listen to it.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's personal taste is
Yeah.
it's personal taste.
I thought already when you said which album you listen to in the airplane, you're more the melancholic.
Not necessarily. So I think I lean towards the melancholic or the sad sounding. So
Melancholic is my comfort zone, totally.
I think for me as well, I feel very happy with sad music.
Yeah.
Interesting, because I read an article about one of my modern role models, Olaf Arnolds, and his quote is, "He creates out of joy, also if it's and the most pieces I think of him are melancholical, have this vibe, but he creates out of joy. And I think the melancholy is das Glück, nicht immer glücklich sein zu müssen, the happiness not to have to be
Happy as always.
Right.
as maybe the society
Says to
expects.
you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think so. One of the things that a professor of mine in university talked about in one of the classes, because we were all coming at classical music from very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I think it's and for me as well, I would think about music as in terms of emotions. Oh, that's angry music. Oh, that's happy music, blah, blah, blah. But music doesn't have an emotion. It's a series of notes and silence, sounds, silence, rhythm. But
Sound waves,
the emotions that we ascribe to music are our own, is how it makes us feel.
Yeah.
And so with Olafur Arnolds, there's some songs, some pieces of his that I think of as being sad, but there are other pieces that other people would say are melancholic that I think are very happy. And I think it just has to do with the individual, the artist who's creating the music.
Yeah.
Because I'll write pieces and my wife will say, "Oh, that sounds very sad." And to me, it's a very happy song. It makes me happy, and
true.
it came from a place of happiness.
Yeah. It's the listener who is like deciding.
Right, but that creates this conversation between artist and listener.
That's so great about music.
Which is what makes listening, how we listen, so important. If we just put a song on, when we're, cleaning the house or whatever, we're not actually participating in the conversation. If we're trying to, or if I used to try and do homework with earpods and some kind of music. But for me, I was always swept away by what the music was doing, and then I would just start writing gibberish. Because I wanted to participate in that I want to know what the artist means. Which is why I love
also a thing,
Bon Iver so much. I love Bon Iver.
Bon Iver,
His the album Bon Iver, his second album, is one of my favorites of all times because some of the songs,
Vernon, all the people around him, it's like
Sean Carey. But one of the things I love so much about him is I don't know exactly what he's talking about in his songs, and that not knowing, that kind of obscurity creates then this exchange of ideas where I can go and talk to a friend who has also listened to the album, and we can talk about what did he mean by this line. What does this line mean?
That leads into discussion. That maybe fits a question like, what does that say about your understanding of truth? So you may not be looking for the truth in a simple pattern, in an expected pattern, which can be thoroughly defined and understood. So like a defined box of this is life. Right. So
yeah. Well, if we're getting into the discussion of what is truth, that's a really long conversation.
That's a different podcast. So we will record next week.
Yeah, but it's a really good question, and I don't have I don't have a short answer because it's because the question of what is truth, what is beauty, what is God? Is there a God? What is love? All these huge questions. To me, I think that the way that I approach life is that there is a universal truth, there is something, but that I will never know it. But I can learn. I had a philosophy class where I went to a very conservative Christian university, and the philosophy professor was not a philosopher. He was like a preacher who had studied philosophy.
Religion.
I hated that class so much because
I can't imagine.
He was just like Nietzsche and Foucault. He gave like a brief overview of what they taught, and then it was like, and these are all the reasons why you should never believe anything. Postmodernism is a lot of stuff, and but we had to write this essay at the end of the semester, and it was this kind of life philosophy. What do I believe in? And I opened the essay with this long kind of poem about how reality is this huge canvas, and my nose is pressed up against it, and I can only see. I can never
see all
step
of it.
back and see all of it. I can only see what is in my field of vision with my nose pressed up, and I can move along the canvas, but I can only ever see this very, very narrow field of vision. And so I guess to answer your question, that's how I think about truth, is that I can never see all of it, but I can talk with people who have seen other parts, and I can move along it. And
but also with the godly aspect, it's quite interesting. Like Micha, you told me once about avoper, and the voice of God and the voice of the human being.
I have the thought from Andrew.
Well, no,
Andrew gave it to Micha,
and from a book.
Well, and also the video with Björk that I showed you.
Yes.
The interview that Björk did with Arvo Pärt, which is that they are both favorite artists of mine. So it's just seeing
I love
them
him.
talk together.
It's our first listening tip, Arvo Pärt. If you don't know him, he's
still go into the cinema, Hidden Life. He did also the soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, he didn't do the soundtrack, but they used his music.
Yeah. True. It's a different thing.
But they used Tabula Rasa, which is
But that's also like a big topic, like what is godly in music, or like is there something godly? Like, for example, if we take totally different genre kind of music, techno, for example, and you talk to people like, I'm in a club and I like experience something else like in this music, and for me it was something godly or something. It's difficult like to talk about, like, is there something, is there not? Is it just me making something up?
Right. Well, I think that's
Because there's a huge gap between like letting the everything close to you or not, or like, I don't know, especially with like Christian people.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's a bad thing to. I think what you're talking about, ascribing something spiritual with music, is kind of how I feel about ascribing something emotional with music, and I don't think it's a bad thing at all to have a spiritual or emotional experience with music. I think it's great. But because I grew up very Christian and in a very kind of Christian environment, I don't necessarily think I have it's hard for me to get to the place where I say that this song is spiritual.
Okay. Yeah.
That it has an intrinsic nature of spirituality. And I have like, I know some people that are very spiritual and they'll talk about the spirit behind the song and all this stuff, and I'm not that kind of person. I don't subscribe to that kind of way of thinking. But with the topic of active listening, I think that might be a product of actually listening and kind of conversing emotionally, spiritually, mentally with what we're hearing. I feel like we're getting a little bit into like esoteric kind of, but it's I don't think it's a bad thing to have those experiences, but to say that this song, but when talking about God, I mean, like, we were required to study theology at my university. I took a bunch of theology courses, and the one of the things that I took away from those courses is that, like, things like beauty, truth, honesty, vulnerability, things like that are very powerful and very meaningful. And so when an artist is expressing something vulnerable in a very beautiful way, that's a very powerful thing. Which I think that that's the goal of almost every artist, is to share a very true part of themselves in a beautiful, meaningful way.
So difficult also.
That's the challenge of the artist, is to how can I share myself in the way that I want to share it. In the way.
First, you have to understand yourself, and like,
Absolutely.
what is it actually?
Absolutely. So for me as a musician, I think it took some years to be myself on the stage. If I go to the piano, play, and people are in the room, now I can say I can just play, I can be myself, and that's so beautiful. And I just so for me, I can just say, if you listen to this podcast now and you are an artist, just go in this direction, just to be yourself.
Just listen to Michael Nickels. If you are listening.
No. Well, I think there is. I mean, did a lot of counseling just because I realized that it would really help me, not just as an artist, but as a person, to go out into the world and be like, this is who I am.
Yeah, that's you.
But as an artist, it's so important it's difficult, and it's because we're sharing a part of ourselves. And it feels like we're sharing just everything about ourselves. But I had my composition instructor in university was such an amazing guy, still like a big mentor in my life. And we talk a lot. And he would say, I brought this piece to him, and he was just tearing it down, like tearing it apart, saying, oh, this part's not so good. And oh, that's all right, but doesn't go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I was fighting him hard.
Okay.
And he just stopped the conversation and said, you know what? When I say that your piece isn't good, I'm not saying that you're not a good artist. And that was like this huge paradigm, worldview changing moment for me when I realized that what I create is not a direct reflection of my ability, my worth, my value.
So you are not your music.
Right.
Basically.
It doesn't...
Or you are more than your music.
Right. Yeah.
Luckily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah.
Yeah, how terrible would life be if it's just,
what you're releasing? Yeah, but it's difficult, like to also split those things, like to see it different, because it's also something which is giving you identity, like what you're like creating.
Yeah, but I think we have to be careful with who we allow to say this is good or this is bad. Ultimately, we are the artist is the ultimate sayer of whether it's good or bad. Whether he or she decides this is what I want to create, this is what I set out to do, and I did it well. Last year for Good Friday, doing the project, Misha was leading a team of artists. We were doing this installation.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piece that was this kind of atonal piece that wasn't supposed to sound good.
Yeah. It was not common, let's say.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't supposed to sound nice.
Yeah.
It was supposed to sound very hard, very... and I had sent it to somebody that was thinking about participating in a singer, and he emailed back and was like, oh, this is not for me, this is not for my ears, I can't. And I had this moment, and then I had a moment where I was kind of like, oh shit, maybe I wrote something bad. But then I talked to Misha and I was like, hey, this happened, I trust your kind of creative mind, your artistic understanding. What do you think? Have I gone too far? And
what did he say?
What did you say?
For me, you cannot go too far.
Yeah, but that's something very difficult also for people, I realized. What is it in English, like aushalten? Like to listen to something or to see something, and it's okay to just let it happen and not like...
Be patient?
I don't know, like, doesn't matter now, the listeners will like get it. But some people not even listen to Moll, like music in Moll, only Dur, or like specific things they think, oh, it's not good to watch this now, like... I don't know, like, but sometimes it's also important to just like let it happen, like the atonal music, like maybe you never experienced it, but just like listen to it and maybe you can find something in it.
Right.
But that's a big step.
Yeah.
Also for me sometimes, like I get a recommendation, like listen to this or that, and then after a song or something, I think, it's not mine, but I always give myself the challenge, okay, like listen through it and just like get something new.
Yeah. I think
unexpected. That's the thing from the beginning.
Yeah.
Callback.
Yeah, keeping us on track. No, I think we've been talking about active listening, and I think I haven't fully fleshed out this concept.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty young. Maybe when I'm 60, I'll write a book about it after living
I will read it.
More of a life. But I think a very big part of it is just being in the moment.
Yeah.
Not worrying about things that I have to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's just...
but that's difficult.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe you can explain, like, how are you actively listening? Or also, Micha, or like, we can all talk maybe about it. Also, when you said, like, I'm listening to music when I did my homework or something, like, that's something what came to my mind. For me, it's also very difficult to, like, listen to something and doing something. Like, it works with specific kind of music, with other music not. And also, I have, like, the thing that when there's music playing, I give the music also a lot of attention. And sometimes this is also difficult. Like maybe you are with people like going somewhere and there's like music playing and you are not really like in the moment because you're listening to something. Like maybe you are even on a date or something and like there's music playing in the cafe and you're like so with the music and the person is thinking like, where are you with your mind? Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think, but active
moving
listening...
your legs, like, yeah.
Active listening doesn't have to be just about music. Because I realized when I first moved to Berlin, it was my first time living abroad, and it was a longer process than I thought it was going to be to feel at home, fully at home. Berlin has
of
felt
course,
like,
it's different.
I knew that Berlin was going to be my home for a while, for a few years. But the reality of living in a new place and dealing with this new insecurity of speaking a new language, and everything, I felt very shut in. And I was talking with a very close friend of mine who's a coach, kind of a counselor coach. And he was asking me, like, what am I doing in my daily life? And what do I need? What could I change to kind of connect more with myself? And I realized that one of the things that I started doing when I was in university was I would go out into the mountains or into the woods or somewhere, and I would just try and listen to how many different sounds I could hear. And I think that I would go out and do that, and it would just make me 100% in the moment, focusing on what's happening right now. And so I think with music...
So you went out for it?
Yeah. So I would go out. But you can... I started doing that.
Looking for these moments, to be in the moment.
But it was just... like I would just go outside my door.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be, going out anywhere in particular, like going out into the forest. Just stepping outside and listening for the sound that the tram is making, and just
making a song out of it.
I went out.
There's the one Kalkbrenner song with the train sound.
Yeah.
And also I remember. Yeah. And I also remember when Micha, we were in Butzke once, and there were the one DJ group, and they recorded nature music and did beats on it. This is also so nice, like on-field recordings and doing something out of it.
Yeah.
Well, but you don't have to be always productive. No, I'm not.
Right, it's not about... but I think... So the Andrew Norman piece, Music in Circles, was inspired... He was sitting in his apartment in New York, and his air conditioning unit was...
Oh, the drink is so spicy.
It's not a German drink. But this Andrew Norman was sitting in his apartment, and his air conditioning was making a rattling sound. And that was, he just sat there and listened to it for a while, and the idea for this piece. And then
came up,
and it's just, what an incredible piece that is. And so I think it's just kind of being in the moment and listening to what's happening around me.
It's so interesting. Sometimes, or often, and maybe everybody knows it who listen to another podcast, we think we have to be productive and very, very effective in our lives and zack, 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 zick, zack, zack. And
zack, zack, zick, also sometimes.
Yes, it's a new melody. New melody. No, and what I, maybe, I don't know what do you think about, but sometimes I am not so effective in this way of people or the society will expect. And so I'm just... I'm a few hours of like, okay, I go running and then I walked and then I realized after this I took some time in the nature and something, and on another side I thought, oh no, I lose time, and then I went to the piano and something new, and then I thought maybe this new piano piece was started in this ineffective time. Maybe it was created in the not productive times of life, and not if I go to the piano and then I write something or I compose something. So I compose something before in my not productive time. So if I just be, as you said, Andrew, the pure presence, I am here.
I mean, we don't, there's no such thing as an original thought. We learn, we receive information, we learn from it, we adapt the information, we apply it in different ways. So like the Andrew Norman hearing the air conditioning unit making the sound, listening to it,
making something up,
and adapting that kind of feel to a classical piece. And there's creativity does not happen in a vacuum. It does not. I think if we, like I wrote in the article, if we are not listening, then we don't have anything to say. And it's only when, I mean, it's when I'm working on a piece, if I'm just sitting at the piano or at the computer and I can't think of what to do next, it's like I have to get out. I have to get out of the house. I have to get away. I put my earbuds in, but I don't put anything on.
Or your big ear.
Or my big headphones.
When we met the first time, I think it was at Admiralsbrücke. Is it possible that we met there the first time? When we like hanging out there one night? Yeah, you were also there, and you came also with your big headphones, like on. And I thought already, okay, this guy is like taking it serious to listen to music, also like on the bike or walking.
Yeah, but not a lot of times, but sometimes I will put headphones on, but not put any music on. or any podcast or anything.
Okay.
It's kind of like
absorbing
the headphones kind of just create a little shield around me, and I feel like I can walk around without being bothered.
Yeah, so people can't talk to you. No, I'm listening to
but
music. Don't talk to me.
But I can, because it's such a normal thing in life to walk around and people are just have headphones on. But it's kind of a way to be to go out and be present somewhere and just listen. Yeah. So like if I'm stuck on a piece or something, I'll just put my headphones in. I'll walk around, not listen to any music through the headphones, but just kind of think and listen to whatever. Yeah. It's not necessarily that I get ideas from what I hear, but it's just that it's kind of like listening to my own thoughts, like not
being with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, it's like so difficult. So I'm learning it a lot at the moment when we talk now about like productivity or like being ineffective also sometimes. But it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's very difficult. So when I'm honest, like sometimes every 10, 15 minutes I'm doing something else. It's very difficult like to be focused. Like then you talk on the phone with somebody, then you're doing this on the computer, then you're like going there, then you like talk there, then you're in the train or on a bike and you listen to a podcast. Like there's no like really a quiet time. You always think, okay, I have to make worth now out of this train when I'm in the train. So I listen to something and learn something and widen my horizon somehow. But actually, like for me, I'm learning it more and more. It's not about like creating something always. Also when I'm enjoying it, but I'm also missing a lot through it. But it's very difficult because I'm also enjoying it, being productive. Like when in the end of the day, like I ticked all the things on my list, and when I like make a plan and appointments, and like you feel alive somehow. But I'm also looking for those quiet moments more and more. Yeah, and it's difficult for me.
Yeah, I think it's so. That's the culture we live in that says, what are you doing? What are you creating? In the States, it's the question that when you meet somebody new, it's you ask each other's names and then you ask what they do.
Yeah, it's the same in Germany, yeah.
Well, I think in Berlin, it's like, where do you live? That's the first question.
Yeah, we can do the round. Where do you live, guys? No.
How big is your apartment?
Oh, in Mitte. Oh, Mitte, guy.
It's like, where do you live and how big is your apartment?
We also bring you to Mitte one time.
Yeah. But
is it actually Mitte where we're sitting here?
I think it's a border to Prenzlauer Berg.
Yeah, so across the street is Prenzlauer Berg.
Okay, so Mitte people.
Yeah, Corine Straße is it's the line at this point. But that's the culture we live in, which is it's all about doing. And I have my father is a successful businessman, and he's a great man, and I admire him in so many ways. But I think one of the things that I think that my dad desires me to be more productive, and I desire for my dad to have more hobbies, just things that he does for fun, that he's not necessarily having to produce something. He's not, but it's not, doing a project on the house or something where it's like, going and
of course,
playing golf or learning a new instrument or something.
For me, the music is also more a hobby, and I would enjoy to also let it be a hobby for the future.
For me, it's like painting or cooking or making cocktails.
You do great cocktails.
And
I'm also looking forward for the dumplings after this podcast.
You have all to come to Andrew.
But people always ask me like, you could like start a restaurant or something. I'm like, no, fuck that. I don't want to have I enjoy this. I like cooking for friends. I like making cocktails for friends.
Do you think active listening to music help you in your everyday life, in your relationships?
It's a really good question, Michal. Thank you for keeping us on topic.
Yeah. And also talk about the active listening group I read about. Sounds like I read in a newspaper or in a magazine about you. No, I just read in our iMessage group that Micha wrote like active listening group. So you can also talk about this.
Yeah, well, so helping in everyday life, I think it's all about being present. And it's kind of if we take the theory or the concept of active listening and take it further to kind of a philosophy, kind of way of life, then it's just, it's kind of a very, like Alan Watts kind of Eastern philosophy, just being present, being in the moment, in that the moment is the highest truth. I guess
it is something. It is something like freedom. So you are not completely defined by your past,
right?
And not by. So it's not like, okay, the past was so bad, and or the future. I have so much fear towards future. So I think it's a freedom to be in the moment, or
yeah, I think so, and it's there's value in thinking about learning from the past and preparing for the future. But if we're only living in the past or in the future, then we're not
missing out.
Yeah, we're not experiencing the little things like today the sun was shining, and I saw a little the sun was shining in Berlin in
absolutely
February.
Yes,
and
this time.
Yeah, it felt like summer. And I went outside and I saw little birds flying around. And, well, do I have time to tell a little story? I'll try and make it very brief.
Yeah.
It's a little bit personal, but when I was in high school, for 2 weeks, I experimented with ecstasy. And I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. But the last time I took ecstasy, I went to a friend's house for a party and had a really amazing time. It's a great drug. But I woke up the next morning and watched the sunrise and realized there's actually so much beauty and
light and
and just there's so much beauty that's available if I just go, if I'm not trying
searching for it.
Yeah, if I just sit and enjoy it, I can achieve the same feeling or a similar feeling as I experienced with the drug if I just well, it's not the same feeling, but the what I was looking for, was just to feel good. But then over the next 10 years or 15 years, realizing that it's not just about
doing drugs,
feeling good, of searching. It's not just about feeling good, but it's just about feeling in general.
Feeling something, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that searching.
I hesitate to call him a philosopher, but he kind of the philosophical writer, poet, Khalil Gibran, in his book, The Prophet, had a big influence on me of of essentially in talking about joy and sorrow, that they're two sides of the same coin, and that the purpose of humanity is to feel everything of the moment, to feel the heartbreak, to feel the accomplishment, the pride in an accomplishment, to feel everything. But when we try and run away from sadness, from the heartbreak or whatever, then we're actually missing out on what it is to be human. So that had a big influence on me of just being in the moment, and so we got on a very philosophical kind of tangent, but with the active listening, it's really just about being in the moment and just listening to receive rather than listening to be entertained. So I think for which I don't think is all the time. Sometimes I just want to listen to something that I've heard 1,000 times.
Yeah, of course.
You know, if I'm going to the gym or whatever. But with the listening, what was it? Active listen. What did you call it in the group text?
Active listening?
Active listening
Active
group.
listening, the idea.
The active listening group or something.
The active listening group.
Yeah.
It wasn't it wasn't necessarily a group that we were focusing on.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It was just I was living in a house with four friends, and every Sunday we would go and play ultimate frisbee, and then we would go to Thai food, go to this Thai restaurant, and then we would all go back to our house and invite friends, whoever wanted to come over, and we would just put an album on. We'd bring all the mattresses and pillows and blankets into the living room, light some candles, and then we would just put an album on. And it was just a place to just lie down and listen.
Enjoy.
And sometimes
Be there.
we'd fall asleep. Sometimes we'd kind of snuggle next to each other, but we'd just listen to an album, and then afterwards...
that is okay.
Yeah. And afterwards we would just... All right, the album's over. And it would... so each week, it was one of the members of the house...
choosing an album. Artist, yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Just to meet together, not to watch a film or to drink just beer.
Right.
So to listen to an album.
Yeah. Yeah. It was,
Right.
Yeah, it was a big thing for me. And that's what inspired the idea for the listening party for the album release.
So cool.
To kind of organize listening parties all over.
Here, all for the listeners here on the podcast, just come to the next listeners party, active listening party of Andrew. We all invite you.
I think we also have to come to an end soon. We can also maybe say which album we would listen to at the listening party.
That's a good...
if you can make up something so quickly. And then we also have something for you in the end. Do you have something more, Micha?
I have just one. Maybe you can answer it in one thought or one sentence. So we love to introduce people and projects who transform the world or to create a beautiful place in our world. So maybe just not in one sentence, but in maybe one thought. So how do you think a society looks like if all the people are active listeners? This is maybe my last question for you.
Oh, it's his last question.
Yeah.
Then he's quiet again.
I'm quiet. to listen.
And then he's ready for the next conference.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a psychologist.
Yes.
I can honestly say that I have no idea.
But maybe a vision.
I think that society would possibly look. I think that people might be more understanding. I think there might be more understanding. Not so focused on. I think we might treat each other better if we go into every encounter with strangers as not bringing the emotions and from our last argument with our partners into this interaction with a perfect stranger who is never did anything bad to us, but somehow we still treat them badly because. So I think in a way, I think it would look more like a Kantian society where we just treat each other as having intrinsic value. I'm not trying to say that active listening is a philosophy to
you're right.
But I think it is. I would say that it's more of a tool, something to or a practice.
Hack.
No, I wouldn't. I hate life hacks. But it's a practice that we can because we don't. I'm not saying that everyone should lie down and listen to an album a day, or that whenever they put on music they should be fully engaged with it, because we all have other things to do with our lives other than just listen to music. But I think singling out moments to just be very present, and whether it's with music or with a podcast or if it's just going into the park and listening to children running around screaming and birds and the sound of the city. I think it's a very centering thing. So I think, I don't know. Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, yeah, totally.
I think what you some aspects you said, I think we need it in our society now.
Of course, yeah.
So we are in 2020 and we are. And come on, if you check out the news, we need it.
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah.
So maybe to the end we can all bring an album, which would we play on a listening party?
Yeah.
I can maybe start. I think I can really recommend the Big Red Machine.
Yeah.
Or the People Movement in general, and Justin Vernon from Bon Iver and Aaron Dessner from The National.
Yeah.
They did it, and I don't know the name of the album. They only have one. Maybe it's just called Big Red Machine, from Big Red Machine. But it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I listen to it at the moment a lot.
What are you?
Recommendations in the end.
There's a
Give our listeners some good music.
Well, on the same record label, New Amsterdam, there's an artist. I'm pretty sure it's New Amsterdam. I might be confusing my record labels. It doesn't matter. There's an artist named Padma Newsome. He's a violinist and singer and really amazing artist. He has a concept album called... Actually, I want to look it up because it's...
Look it up. Micha, you can maybe start already.
It's difficult. So I made a new... Do you know it?
You can also recommend your album, your own album.
Yeah, the album that I'm working on in the moment, I would recommend.
Yeah.
But so the Padma Newsome album is called The Vanity of Trees. And it's a concept album about trees. And it's it's very different.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot that it provides a lot to think about.
Yeah.
In terms of, because some of it sounds very pleasant, and some of it is just sounds weird. But I think getting to the point where if with weird music, if we just give it a little bit of time, and it starts becoming less weird.
Yeah, of course.
Very much like the Sufjan Stevens album Age of Odds, which was his kind of experimental concept album. And there are a lot of hardcore Sufjan Stevens fans that freaked out with that album because it was so different. But I would count that in the top.
So you haven't been
5,
freaked out.
That album made me love him even more. But I would count that album in probably the top 5 most genius albums of all time.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's between the Vanity of Trees and the Age of Odds.
Yes, so usually I am, for me the podcast is amazing because I am usually a listener of this one song and then another song, or maybe just 2 minutes of one song, or maybe sometimes just I love 30 seconds of one song and then I switch again. It's but my last discovering of a musician was Hanya Rani. She's a composer and pianist of Warsaw, Poland. And she's a very
I hope
cool
you're
girl.
Yeah, Michelle is madly in love with you. We're all hoping that you two get together.
Hey, maybe she listened to it. Now it's very embarrassing for me.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But
He's a great guy.
He's a really great guy. He's handsome. He's really talented.
Thanks.
I guess he's
Thanks.
I've heard that he's a good lover. He's richy, bitchy, and famous.
Oh my god, I love you, man. No, but the album, sorry, the album, to be serious, the album is Esja, and it's a beautiful piano album, and a lot of amazing songs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
I can recommend it.
And in the end, we also have something like we did also on the last podcast that we. Oh yeah, you also want to?
No.
We also did in the last podcast that we like bring something. To be honest, I forgot it now at home, but I just came back yesterday from Barcelona, right? And I were there on the exhibition, and it was also about music, like about the art of sound. And Micha and me, we bought a book for you, and we will give it to you in the next days. Yeah.
I thought when you said that we brought something for you, I thought you were talking about the listening audience. I didn't realize it was for me. Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah. So if we have something, we give something to our guests. So yeah, and they are nice, like experience in it. Like they recorded like the sound of melting ice. They recorded like different things also with notation and like experimenting with it. Really interesting. Yeah, like we hope you will love it.
Yes, and we want to encourage you to be an active listener.
Oh yeah.
No, you encourage us. You encourage us to be an active listener. Yeah.
Is this where the outro music comes in?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yes. Whatever. I think I took too much of the drink already. But I'm looking forward for the next refill. And some dumplings.
The last like 10 minutes, I was kind of like, I have to piss.
Yeah.
I should have gone before we started.
Yes.
Okay, like see each other on the next episode of our podcast.
Absolutely. Bye-bye, people.